Through his work with clients, Joe Calloway has studied patterns of organizational and individual success and failure. Today, Joe is nationally recognized as an expert on business trends and competitive factors. Sales and Marketing Management magazine named Joe as one of the top business speakers in the country. Hundreds of companies depend on Joe for ideas on how to compete and win in today's changing marketplace. Joe believes in straight talk about what it takes to succeed in today's market, and his unique speaking style has been described as part Will Rogers, part Tom Peters, and part Robin Williams. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Joe Calloway.
I read an article not too long ago. I want to share this with you because this made me think. I was working on this presentation when I read this article, so I thought I'd bring it because I think it might have some application. Listen to this. In the 1800s, ice harvesting was a thriving business in New England. In the winter, harvesters would cut huge blocks of ice from frozen lakes and ponds and ship them around the world. One of the largest shipments ever recorded was 200 tons of ice that went from New England to India. 100 tons made it. The ice, well, there's a melt factor, obviously. Well, listen to this. The ice harvesting industry, however, only lasted until people figured out how to make ice in factories. Well, great. Now the supply of ice was not limited to the winter months or to sources in New England. The advent of ice factories quite naturally killed off the ice harvesting business. A few years after ice factories, along came refrigerator companies, which then killed off the ice making factories. Now, here's the point, and here's the funny thing about the refrigeration business. Not one ice harvester, not one, was able to make the evolutionary jump to either ice making or certainly not to selling refrigerators, not one. All the ice harvesting companies were frozen solid in their view of what worked. Their view of progress was, well, let's come up with a little bit better saw so that we can cut the ice faster, or maybe we can come up with a better, faster way of shipping the ice to the customer. Well, the bottom line is this: some species evolve, some die out. And in the world of business, it's no secret that in the last few years, heck, in the world of your business, it's no secret that fairly recently, a lot of species have not evolved.
There's only one topic. Let me put it in terms of what I do. Front row. You thought this was going to be a good place to sit, didn't you? What's your name? Carolyn. You want to play? You had no choice, so just nod your head. Be a good sport. Carolyn, I want you to role play. As a matter of fact, I want all of you to role play with this, but I'm going to play off of Carolyn as we do this. Carolyn, I want to demonstrate to you what's going on in every other industry, okay, and what the issue is there, and I want to do it this way. I want you to pretend like it's 8 o'clock tonight. You are next door at the Marriott Hotel. You're walking through the hotel. You're walking through the common area outside the big ballrooms, okay? Can you picture it? You are out there absolutely by yourself, minding your own business, okay? As you walk through the area outside the main ballroom, all of a sudden the doors to the main ballroom burst open, Carolyn. Frantic-looking guy comes rushing out. He looks around. You're the only one out there. He says, "Excuse me, ma'am, excuse me. You don't know me. I don't know you. You don't owe me anything, okay? But as one human being to another, listen, I need help, and I need it desperately, and I need it right now. I've got 500 business people in that ballroom having dinner. They just got their desserts. Lady, I promised them an outside speaker after dinner. Listen, I just got a message. The outside speaker's not going to show up. I don't know who you are or what you do, but you're an outsider. Right now, that's close enough. Would you please come give a short speech on anything? I don't care what you talk about to these 500 business people." Carolyn, what would you say to them? No. Okay. It's fairly straightforward. Watch this. Watch this. Lady, you give me 5 minutes on anything you want. The second you get through, I will give you $500. Carolyn, what would you say? Yeah, look at her. The first time it was like, nope, no way, no how. Now it's like, yeah, I could do that. There's some stuff I've been wanting to talk about anyway. Let me up there. Where's the microphone? So Carolyn, you go up on the stage, the leader of the meeting goes up to the lectern and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we promised you an outside speaker this evening. We have one. Please help me welcome Carolyn." You get the polite obligatory applause. You go up to the lectern. As you stand there at the lectern, you look out over those 500 faces. They've all turned their backs on their desserts, Carolyn, and they're all sitting there looking at you, oh, something like this. And the look on their faces says, okay, lady, what do you know about what I do, huh? What do you know about the kind of pressure that I'm under out there every single day in the real world? And what have you got to say in some speech that has anything to do with my reality and what I have to face every day? And as you look at them, Carolyn, it occurs to you, you forgot to get a fairly critical piece of information. You have no idea who these people are. You don't know if these are insurance agents, bowling alley owners, computer programmers. How do you know what to say that in fact does have something to do with what's going on in their business? Well, you don't even know who they are. It doesn't matter, Carolyn. Today, this day and age, you don't have to know who they are. Here's your speech. Trust me, it will work. As a matter of fact, I've got so much confidence in it. Play it a little bit. Play it for all it's worth. Let the anticipation build. When they introduce you, go up to the lectern. Don't even say anything for a few seconds. Just stand there. I'll tell you what, start at one side of the room, sweep the room, make a lot of eye contact, and just nod knowingly. So when they introduce you, Carolyn, go up there and do this. Then step to one side and say, you know, as I look across this room tonight, as I look in the faces of the men and women sitting in this room tonight, let me suggest something to you. Let me suggest that no group in any business anywhere has had to deal with the kind of constant, rapid, and let's be honest, sometimes painful change that the people in this room have had to deal with over the last 2 to 3 years. Carolyn, you got them. I guarantee you throughout the room you'll see them start to go. She knows. She knows. Carolyn! Whoa, 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 whoa! Carolyn!
Now, my point is this. My point is this. There is a tremendous amount of change going on in the insurance business, obviously. It's just what's going on in business today. Now you say, well, Joe, I think maybe you're kind of dealing with the obvious here. We all read the newspaper every day. We all know there's a lot of change going on. Understand how important that is competitively and strategically. Let me give you a couple of insights into it from some other people. I was working with as a matter of fact, it was a Blue Cross Blue Shield meeting down in Orlando about 5 years ago, a big national operations meeting. Speaker before me was a guy named David Kearns. Now, I don't know if that rings a bell with any of you, but David Kearns was the guy that took over as CEO of Xerox when Xerox had gone, right after Xerox had gone, from an 86% market share down to about a 16% market share. They reinvented, totally refocused the company, got it back on track, and then Kearns is out after his retirement from Xerox. He's talking about the process. After he gives his speech on what they did at Xerox and on quality and change, somebody raised their hand. He took questions after his speech, and the first question was from a woman I'll never forget, because I thought it was a very good question, an interesting question. Think in your own mind how you would answer this, and then I'll tell you what he said. Because at first his answer surprised me, then it made total sense to me. The question was, Mr. Kearns, what do you consider to be the single most important, purely competitive factor for the 90s? Yeah, how would you answer that? Is it price? Is it quality? What is it? He didn't hesitate that long. He immediately said, organizations that can make change a motivator rather than a demotivator will win in the 90s and beyond into the next century. Think about it. Everything that you talk about today having to do with your business probably encompasses a change that you either want to make, you have to make, you don't want to make, you're thinking about making, a change that's going on in the marketplace. Let me give you a slightly different perspective. See, my job is so interesting because I get to work with all different kinds of businesses. I got to spend, this was 2.5 years ago, I got to spend 3 days with a very interesting, very successful little family business in Bentonville, Arkansas. Ring a bell with anybody? Family's name is Walton. They call their store Walmart. While I was there, Sam Walton was being interviewed by Fortune magazine. Ended up being a cover story, last major interview he gave before he passed away. And during the course of the interview, the reporter asked Mr. Sam, by the way, you didn't call him Mr. Walton, you called him Mr. Sam. He was if you've read articles about the Walton family, particularly Sam Walton and the sons, how they drive around Bentonville and Fayetteville in rusted up Chevy Suburbans and pickup trucks with gun racks and dogs in the back. All true, gang. I've been there. I've seen it. Well, we've all got friends like that, though. You know the type. You know, your typical Arkansas, good old boy, multi-billionaires. Anyway, I want you to get the picture. Mr. Sam's in his office being interviewed by Fortune. Now here he is, the grand patriarch of the whole clan, the whole business, the head of what at the time could arguably be called the most successful retail organization in the country. He's sitting there, the white mane's flowing back, and here I thought this was the key question in the whole interview. The reporter says, Mr. Sam, of everything you do better than the competition, what's the key? Of everything you do better than the competition, what's the key? I loved his answer. Kerry, I particularly loved the first part of his answer. Listen to this. Walton leans back and he says, well, you know, at Walmart, we're probably not really all that smart. Yeah, right. Listen. He says, but we are flexible and we do change. And what we do better than the competition is we can turn our big ship around quicker than the other guys can turn their big ship around because our people are so attuned to change. So we got David Kern saying you got to make change a motivator. You got Sam Walton saying, well, you've got to be attuned to change. Great ideas. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with the philosophy. Easier said than done, because a lot of people are afraid of change, understandably so. I mean, particularly my guys, you look at manufacturing. I live down in Nashville, as I mentioned. Just south of us is the Saturn automobile factory, which I've had the chance to go through. Robots everywhere. It's incredible. It's like a science fiction movie. I read something interesting about the use of robots in American manufacturing. The 1960s saw the first robot used in American manufacturing. By 1980, there were 32,000 robots being used in American manufacturing. Now in the 1990s, over 2 million robots are being used in American manufacturing. The factory of the future will have 2 employees, a man and a dog. The man will be there to feed the dog. The dog will be there to be sure the man doesn't touch the equipment. So, you know, it's understandable that people get a little nervous about technology and change, and then you throw in the whole... Let me ask you a question. I think I know what your answer would be. How many of you would say that in your business you feel more competitive pressure to perform now than you ever have in the history of your business? Yeah, most people tend to agree with that. I don't know exactly what all the factors are that have raised the heat on competition, but I tell you, if you're hiring somebody today and you want to be honest with them about the kind of pressure that they're going to be under competitively, don't sugarcoat it. Tell them the truth. If I were Dan, let's say that I'm talking to you about the possibility of you coming to work for me. It doesn't matter what kind of company I've got, you know, the Acme widget company, it doesn't matter. I need to level with you. I need to put it like this. See if you could relate to this a little bit, this kind of pressure. I need to say, Dan, listen, if you come to work here, you need to understand what we do and the way we do it. Business is like a race, and we run that race every day. There's the track right out there, Dan. If you come to work here, if we decide it's a good match, here's what I need from you. I need you to go out there and run the first 10 laps as fast as you possibly can. Could you do that for me? Good man. Then I need you to gradually increase the speed each lap after that. Right? And that's it. That's just, it's not fair, right, or wrong. It just is. It's the way it is. Well, the interesting thing is there are a lot of companies and a lot of individuals that are getting very, very good at saying, look, let's take this pressure, let's take this constant change and turn it into an advantage. Let's see if we can strategically, and it's more than strategy, it's a lot of it is mindset. Can we gear our mindset so that change is not a threat, it is in fact an opportunity? Well, let me pass on. Let me first look at some strategic ideas and corporate and small business mindset ideas, then we'll talk about the individual. Let me pass on some things that companies are doing that are working. The first thing, and this is a particular favorite of mine, let me put it in the form of a question to you. I'm going to throw out a question. As soon as I ask the question, I want you to turn to the person next to you and answer it with the first thing that goes through your mind. This is a question about the insurance business. And the question is, what's going to happen next? Go. Okay. Now, I saw a lot of people turn to the person next to them and say, for example, Jim, I think you turned and said change, right? What's going to happen next? I think you said change. A lot of people said change. I also detected a number of people, and be honest, when I said what's going to happen next, how many of you turned to the person next to you and went, I don't have any idea? How many of you said, I don't know? Yeah. Consider. Now go back to what Carrie said about we don't want to be in a situation where we're reacting to crisis after crisis. We want to be more proactive than that. We want to anticipate. Consider the strategic logic and advantage and competitive advantage of saying, I'll tell you what our philosophy is here. Our philosophy very purposely is we don't know what's going to happen next. We're making no assumptions about what's going to happen next. And see, because I guarantee you that's what we do at our little business in Nashville, and I pray every day that my competitors go to their office thinking they know exactly what's going to happen. Oh, I hope they think they know what's going to happen. We don't. Why do we take that position? I mean, what's the advantage to us? It forces us to be what? Flexible. And if you're flexible and change is not a surprise, then you're not in this reaction to crisis mode. As a matter of fact, I've taken it a step further. See, I'm looking for every advantage I can get. My philosophy is this: Calloway, not only do you not know what's going to happen next, you don't even know what's going on right now. I'll tell you where I got that idea. There was a full-page ad, I think in the Wall Street Journal, a couple of years ago. A company called Putnam Investments. See if you can relate to this, because this is reality. I love this one. The ad said, you think you understand the situation, but what you don't understand is the situation just changed. Think about it. You think you understand the situation or the market or the technology or whatever. What you don't understand is the situation just changed. I mean, technology is an easy one. We can look at technology right now. I do a lot of work in the computer business. And my friends in the computer industry have a saying. Listen to this. You know the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and all that sort of stuff. Listen to this one. If it works, it's obsolete. I know you can relate to that one. By the time you figure out how to use it, what do? You know how to use that? Well, good. Let's give you another one you know nothing about. And we have to start all over. And again, that's neither good nor bad. It just is. But the mindset, here's the point I want to get across. There are people out there that are still surprised at changes. How can anybody that gets up and goes out into the world and reads the newspaper and functions every day be surprised at change anymore? And yet, there are a lot of people laying themselves a big trap. How many of you know people that are waiting for things to calm down and get back to normal? This is as normal as it's going to get. I mean, what is there? Would somebody tell me what is there out there on the horizon that indicates that things are going to slow down? Let's go back to computers. Oh yeah, I think the people that invent computers are about done, don't you? There's just nothing out there that indicates that anything is going to happen except more change, more extensive change, and faster change. Fine. You are a very successful organization. Raise your hands if that's a fair statement. I mean, come on. All you got to do is look at the numbers, look at the rate. Yes, you're very successful. You're all very good at what you do. Please understand that puts you in a very precarious position. You are successful, you're good at what you do, and that's a scary place to be. Why in the world would I say that? Because when you're successful, what's the temptation? Complacency, exactly. See, here's the way I look at it. And I can also say, very happily, thank you, that my company in Nashville is a very successful company. Ask around in my industry, they'll tell you, yeah, they do a great job. They're very successful. So I acknowledge that. I'm grateful for that. And you know what that means to me? I'm successful. That means I know what worked up through yesterday. And that's all. That's all it means. I can tell you exactly how to succeed in 1995, 94, 93, all the way back to 1980 when we opened the doors. I can tell you how to succeed in the preceding 15 years. Next 15 years, I don't know. The jury's way out on that. We'll see. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying throw out what worked yesterday. I'm not at all saying that. The exact same thing may be the perfect thing to do tomorrow. I'm just saying I don't want to assume that it will, because it's that assumption that puts blinders on me. It's that assumption that, look, I know this business inside out. I know what's going to happen. Oh, that information's not as available as it used to be. And that's what gets us in a crisis mode, where we're reacting to the unexpected.
Don't ever confuse things not changing with stability. Don't ever confuse a company where everything stays the same as being necessarily stable. Listen, your business is like a child's top. You know, a top that you spin it and it's spinning around? And it's stable as long as it's spinning. There's only one thing that'll make it flop over and die. What's that? If it stops spinning, it becomes unstable. Jack Welch, CEO of General Electric, put it this way. He said, if the rate of change outside your organization is greater than the rate of change inside your organization, you have got a problem and the end is near. So, rule number one in this market today, don't get stuck. And it's all in your mind and it's all in my mind. And here's what I want you to go home with, this thought. As a matter of fact, I've been a little surprised that you haven't been taking copious notes during my presentation. But if you wanted to write one thing down, this is it. This is the presentation's about to peak. This is my best shot coming up. This is the best I know right here. This is the key to everything. This is the key to everything in your business. This is what separates, starting point of what separates successful business from an unsuccessful business, a happy life from an unhappy life. This is the key to everything. I'm about to reveal the greatest wisdom known. Are you ready? It depends on how you look at it. We got time for questions, I guess. If there's any part of that you don't understand. Now, lest you think I'm talking in just general ideas, I mean literally. How many of you know people that look at the world? Well, we all look at the world in different ways, but how many of you know people that are miserable? They have looked at the world one way. Well, yes, she not raise her hand. She starts pointing. It's like that are miserable. And you watch them, and you know it's because they get up every day, and the way they see the world, in fact, is their reality. Ooh, have you ever traveled with people like that? I was on a Mediterranean cruise a few years ago. We weren't members of the group, but it was a private group that was going. They had a group leader, and listen to this. Every night, the group would meet in one of the little meeting rooms on the ship and talk about. It was one of those cruises, different city every day. It was one of the Rome, Venice, Dubrovnik, Sicily, Tunis, all that sort of stuff. And every night, the group leader would say, "How did you like Dubrovnik?" And everybody would go, "Ooh, ooh, ooh." This one couple every night. You know what I'm talking about? The one couple. Something was wrong. Something was always wrong. Every night, something was wrong. Oh, I'll never forget Tunis. How many of you have ever been to Tunis? It's totally different. It's like, here's Southern Europe, but now for something completely different. We get to Tunis. It was great. We're driving through. There's the Casbah, the people on, it was just incredible. We're talking about a totally different culture here. It was so much fun. And it was hot. We were there in like the 1st of September. It was roaring hot. We didn't care. There's camels. You kind of wanted to sweat, It just got into it. And everybody loved it, except, I'll never forget, sitting on the bus was that couple. And they didn't see anything because they spent the whole afternoon. Can't believe it. And everybody else is I'm just like Gomer, from Tennessee. Golly! This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And here are these two. I'm going, look. We get back that night to the ship. We have the little debriefing meeting. And the cruise director says, not the cruise director, the group director says, "How did you like Tunis?" And everybody's just, ooh, ah, it was incredible. It was wonderful. Here go the hands. He says, "What was the problem today?" The guy had the contract that they had signed for the cruise. He says, "Let me read something." It says, "All day trips will be conducted in comfortable air-conditioned buses. That bus may have been air-conditioned, but it was not comfortable. We want at least a partial refund, if not a whole refund. We've had it with this." My wife turns to me and says, "Let's just leave. I'm sick of listening to this." I said, "Wait a second. Look at the group leader's eyes. Something just snapped." "Let's stay. This could be good." Group leader goes over to him and says, "Let me get this straight. You got air conditioning in your house at home?" I said, "Yes, we do, and it works." He says, "So when you have guests in your home, you want them to be cool and comfortable. You turn the air conditioner on, and it keeps them all very cool and comfortable, even on the hottest days." And the guy said, "Yes, it does. That's exactly what it does." He says, group director says, "So you want things to be basically the way they are at home then. Is that right?" And he says, yes, I think that's the standard we expect. He says, let me give you a little travel tip then, bub. Stay the hell at home. It's Africa. Everybody in the group's going, overboard, overboard. And do you see my point? They made it up. This is not about, oh, I see. Well, thanks, Paul. You brought in a real motivational speaker. Oh, just put a smile on your face. Come on, gang. We are the world, you know. No, that's not what it's about. It's about, all right, Calloway, you're going out there in the world to play with the big boys and girls tomorrow. You don't know what you're going to run into. How smart are you? How creative are you? Bottom line, maybe how tough are you? Because from that springs everything else.
Let me illustrate what I'm talking about. You can have, the key is options. I may have no control over what happens. I got total control over my response to it. And that sets up the next thing. See, my response to it is what sets up the next thing, or my anticipation of it, or my planning for it. You can have everybody in this room faced with the exact same set of information and have 1,300 different interpretations of it. You can have 1,300 or 1,400, every people got different realities. Let me show you. Let's use big dogs. How many people in this room are very, very afraid of big dogs? Raise your hand. I mean, big dogs just scare you to death. This lady back here, first hand I saw. What's your name? Darian? Daria? Daria, I want you to pretend like, now get into it, role play. I want you to pretend like I come up here to the corner of the room, I go over to these doors, I open them up, and I go, and Daria, through these doors comes a dog. You see my hands, Daria? We're talking about we're talking about like a big mutant dog, okay? Huge dog. The dog comes in the room, Daria, and does this. The dog comes in and goes. All right, you guys watch this. Because Daria's mind is like a pinball machine right now. Ding, 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 ding. She's going to come up with, and here's the key. Daria will come up with her perception. The way she looks at it. And everything that happens after that depends on the way she chose to look at it. She'll look at it a certain way, she'll throw in some analysis, some judgment, she'll make a decision, and she'll do something which will create a certain kind of result. So let's see what's going on. Let's get inside Daria's head. Daria, here comes the big dog. Number one, how would you feel? You would feel paralyzed with fear. What would you do? God, she's paralyzed with fear. So, her strategy is, which, think about it. How many times have you seen somebody get a memo at work and their strategy is, just freeze? You know, I was talking to a woman one time, she said, I do not like this policy that we're doing here at work. I said, well, what's your strategy? She said, I don't like it. I said, no, but and it may be a really rotten strategy, so what are you going to do? What's your response? She says, I don't like it, and I'm going to continue to not like it. Oh, she's chosen one of the real power positions on the board. All right, Daria, and by the way, I'm not saying that your strategy is wrong or right. That may be totally appropriate. To just be real still in the situation, okay? But watch this. All I want to show is a different reality. How many people in this room absolutely adore big dogs? The bigger the dog, the better you like them. You love big dogs. Woman right over here. The 1, 2, 3, fourth one in with the dark hair. What is your name? Say it real loud. Lisa. Huge dog, Lisa. Comes in the room. Heading your way. Number one, how would you feel? You would feel okay, right? Yeah, you'd feel fine. What would you do? Yeah, put your hand out to check the dog out because big dogs are so much fun. See, I'm with you. I like big dogs. My sister has got a little dog named Kia. I don't even know what it is. It's just hair. It's like this big. Little dogs, I don't see the point. She runs through the room and I just go, why? But a big dog, Lisa, a big dog you can wrestle with, and play with. And in this situation, if you really wanted to have fun, you wrestle with the dog, you might say, come on, puppy, let's go back and see Daria for a second, right? Get Daria doing a few laps around the room there. Now, Lisa, I'm not saying that your answer is better than hers or worse than hers. I'm just saying, faced with the exact same situation, the exact same memo, the exact same policy, the exact same dog in the room, you had two totally different responses, which is the way the world works. But see, it's in that option period that everything happens. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to send you home with a lab exercise that you can use. How many of you, first of all, let's start very general, how many of you have been trying to get somewhere, a meeting, a date, an appointment, a dinner, whatever, you've been trying really hard to get somewhere, and for some reason, you're stuck? Has that happened to everybody in the room? Surely. Okay, I want you to recall that feeling. Now let me be a little more specific. Because in this day and age, most of us have experienced this. How many of you have ever gotten stuck in an airport? Raise your hands. If you haven't, you will. The next time you get stuck in an airport, here's what I want you to do. I want you to consider it the Great Airport Challenge. I want you to watch all of the different choices that people make and just start to observe and catalog. Okay, here's a difficult situation. It's a change that nobody expected, and this guy has chosen to respond by doing that. Does that make any sense? If it doesn't make any, it looks like it's not working for him. So why would he choose that strategy? On the other hand, this guy over here has chosen a totally different strategy, and it appears to be working quite well, as a matter of fact. So why would he not do what he's doing? And most importantly, what do I do? How many of you in this room will agree with me that we tend to have standard ways of responding to things? I do. You put me in a traffic jam, I've got my standard way of responding to it. And what I work on all the time is, Calloway, there's more options, there's more options. I worked for a guy one time who was such a good manager. He used to say to us, I'd come in and say, this is all gone crazy, it's not going to work. And he would say, well, there's another way of looking at it. Let's figure out what it is. And it was always not about sugarcoating, it was about getting tougher. It's another way of looking at it. All right, I based the airport challenge on a true experience that happened to me. So let me explain it to you, and then I'll turn it over to you, and then we'll do something else. Atlanta Airport, about 6 years ago, I'm trying to get from Nashville, which is where I'm from, to Pittsburgh. That particular day, to get from Nashville to Pittsburgh, you had to fly to Atlanta first and start over. I get to Atlanta about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, okay? I get off my flight and I go to the desk for the Pittsburgh flight. I check in and I sit down. Have you ever been sitting in an airport waiting for your plane, look out the window and see the storm approaching that's going to keep you there? And we're all just sitting there doing, it was this massive line across the sky. And we're looking at it going, we're never going to get out of here. Let's just please get on the plane and go. The storm hits. Huge storm. Wind. Sideways rain, just massive storm. Here comes the announcement, right, from the airline. Ladies and gentlemen, due to the storm activity in the Atlanta area, we're closing Atlanta Hartsfield International Airport to all air traffic. We anticipate that all outgoing flights will be delayed a minimum of 2 to 3 hours. And we all looked at each other and went, what did he say 2 to 3 hours? Because, hey, I fly all the time. I fly just about every day. I know what the rules are. I'm willing to play by them. The rules are, when something like that happens, they're supposed to lie to us in 15 to 30-minute intervals. Right? You could be looking out the window, see an engine fall off the plane you're waiting for. We expect a 10-minute maintenance delay. Get out of here. Well, what does it mean? We're all looking at each other and we're saying, well, what does it mean when they start off saying 2 to 3 hours? Am I prepared to raise a family in this airport? How long are we going to be here? Here's what I did. Here's what I advise you to do. You got hundreds of people right there that have all been hit by change. I am a student of human strategy, the way people make decisions and whether or not it works and gets them what they want. So my first reaction was, Calloway, get a good seat. It's showtime. watch these people do what they do. I'll run through a couple of types. I'm sitting here, empty seat, empty seat. 2 seats down from me was a guy that was also booked on the Pittsburgh flight who I knew that quick was a victim, a whiner. You know what I'm talking about? You know people, don't point or anything, but you know what I'm talking about. I don't care what happens. I mean, something can happen and everybody in the group goes, well, okay, that's what we're dealing with, let's deal with it. And they're the ones that sit over there and go, well, I'll illustrate it. It's a classic type. A lot of times they start out like this guy started out. I knew he was a victim because he started out with what I like to call, think about it, the martyr's laugh. He heard the announcement, 2 to 3 hour delay, and here's his response. Well, that's just great. 2 to 3 hours, why not? Come on, baby. I mean, let's go for 2 or 3 days. If we're going to do it, let's really do it. I can't, you know, why should I have expected today to be any better than any other lousy day in my lousy life? I mean, when somebody calls me up and says, Bob, we got a meeting in Pittsburgh, you want to come? Why don't I just level with them and say, no, I can't go to meetings. That's not available in my life. Because there are people at the airport that wait for me to show up. When I show up, we're sitting there watching him, and believe me, I understand the frustration. I'm feeling it too. But I'm thinking, all right, as a strategy, where's this going to get him? Finally makes his way over to me. He says, excuse me, you on this flight to Pittsburgh? I said, yeah. He says, then I owe you an apology. You know what's coming. I said, why would you owe me an apology? He said, let me explain something to you, buddy. He says, when I checked in and told them that I was on this flight, I should have come over here to you and all these other nice people trying to get to Pittsburgh, and I should have said, find another way. This one's not going to go. They know I'm here. Okay, all I'm saying is, when you're hit with change, that's an option. I'm not sure what the payoff is, but it's an option. Now, there's another option, and actually, this is the reason I tell this story. There was a guy that was in our area. He hears the announcement. He was already up and pacing when the storm hit. He hears the announcement, 2 to 3 hour delay. He goes, 2 to 3 hours? Are they kidding me? 2 to 3 hours? Kicks the wall as hard as he can. Now, a wall is good for letting off a minimal amount of steam, but this guy wants live targets. You know what I'm talking about. So he goes up to the desk at the gate where the 2 airline employees were. He goes up to them, taking a pen out of his pocket, and he says, you know the trouble with this country? Biggest mistake we made the last 20, 30 years? I'll tell you what it was. Deregulation of the airlines. See, our mistake was we thought that the people in the airlines would occasionally be minimally competent enough to get an airplane from point A to point B. You can't do that. Not once. And I'm sick of it, and I'm sorry, but I'm not putting up with it anymore. I'm getting a couple of jobs out of this. Exactly. I want your name. Turn around. Don't you have that name tag? And John. All right, how many of you have ever seen somebody do that in the airport? Raise your hands. What do you want to bet there's at least 25 people sitting in here right now listening to me, and they're thinking to themselves, well, what's wrong with it? Sounds like a take charge guy to me. It's what I do. Hey, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it makes sense to take names and assign responsibility. But get the situation. Over here, there's 50 people watching that. Over here, the floor-to-ceiling windows, outside of which is a monsoon hurricane. Woman sitting on this, because we're all doing this. He's over here, and the storm's over here. We're all kind of torn. We're going like this. Just trying to process it. Woman sitting on this side of me says, excuse me, did he actually just take their names? I said, yeah. We both look at the storm. She looks at me and says, why? I said, because he doesn't have any other way to do it. He's stuck. That's the only option the guy's got. By the way, after he took their names, that calmed him down for a few minutes. But you know these garbage cans you see in a public building, curved top, little door in the top? There was one of those right in there. He would sit there for 15, 20 minutes. He would just start, the pressure would start to build. He would jump up. Ha! and kick the garbage can. I mean, kick it over. Boom, 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 boom. And everybody would yell at him. He'd apologize. He'd say, I'm sorry, I just lost it for a second. 15, 20 minutes would go by. He'd kick it again. Boom, 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 boom. Very, very quickly. Very, very quickly, because I'm about to wrap it up. I want you to now put yourself in that situation. Role play, pretend, visualize. You are now stuck in an airport far, far from home. You don't know how long you're going to be there. It's a change. You don't like it. You weren't expecting it. Very, very quickly, give me options. What could you do? Hey, there's a row of guys up here. I'll tell you. There's a row of guys up here. The response went down the row like a wave. Bar, 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 bar. I'll come back to that one. But right now, let's stretch just a little. Okay, somebody else says you could read. What else could you do, please?
Rent a taxi and catch a ferry.
Yeah, rent a taxi and get a ferry or another mode of transportation. I've done that. What else could you do? Call home. Hey, by the way, that's an important point. And a lot of times, listen, baby, all you can do is damage control. And let's put this on the table. Sometimes you're hit with a situation and the best choice you've got is not so hot. Is that fair? Sometimes the best choice you got is not all rosy and Mary Poppins. Well, if it's the best choice, maybe it's just damage control. Fine, make it and move on. That's all I'm saying. This isn't rah-rah, yee stuff. It's about, hey, if the best choice I've got is not so good, I still want to make my best choice and move on to the next thing. So you could read, you could get another chance. And let me tell you what I did. I got on the phone. It was the first thing I did. After watching the people, I got on the phone. I called the people for the next day where I was going. I said, I may not make it. Let's go to plan B, da-da-da-da-da. And then guess what I did? I went to the bar, right. Hey, there's people in the bar. They're my species. Why not? Hang out with them. So I go to the bar, sit down. Airport bar packed in Atlanta that day, of course. Normally you don't speak to strangers. You ever been snowed in? You ever been rained in? Instant pals. Where are you going? Omaha. Omaha? Well, heck, I've heard of Omaha, yeah. You know, just anything to make a connection. So within 1 minute, we're all new best friends. So we're just making the best of it, you know. You go check it, we'll say place. One of the last empty seats in the bar was right beside me, Dan. I feel a tap on my shoulder, turn around and look. Stunning young woman standing there. She's suit, briefcase, she looks at me and says, excuse me, do you mind if I sit here with you? Howard, I thought about it. I couldn't find anything wrong with the idea. I said, sure, have a seat. So she sits down, we start talking. She travels all the time, I travel all the time. So we're swapping frequent flyer stories. Finally, she says, why are you going to Pittsburgh? No, I'll make a long story very short. I said, I've got a client in Pittsburgh that sells lighting to commercial builders. Commercial building is off about 35–40% in Pittsburgh over a year ago. He tells me that all of his competitors are emptying out their warehouses. They don't want to carry a warehouse full of products and pay interest, you know, finance charges on that kind of inventory when selling is down. We're thinking, what if you fill the warehouse up? What if you're the only one in town with immediate product availability? Everybody else is having to order. What if you've got it right there? Hey, 60% of the market's still there. This seems like a chance to capture major market share. And she's listening to me like this. She's going, yes, exactly. Finally, she pulls out her briefcase, gives me her card. She says, I want to give you my card because I'm very, very interested in what you're saying. I look at her card. Think about what I do for a living. Her card, she worked for a big stock brokerage firm out of New York City, offices all over the country. Her card said, Director, National Sales Training. So on the inside, you know, I'm looking at this card, and on the inside, I'm thinking, hey, she could give me a job. On the outside, of course, I'm being cool. I turn to her and I go, hey, you could give me a job. She gave us 4 jobs. She contracted with us to do 4 different pieces of work for us, different sales conferences. Contrast that with the other choices. So you're reading, you're on the phone, you're already on the ferry finding another way to get to where you're going. I'm in the bar getting a job. We've all made these choices. Understand the contrast, because 20 feet behind me is the open entryway to the bar. And every 15 to 20 minutes, flying one way or another past the door of the bar, boom, 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 a garbage can. And some of you may be thinking, wait a minute. Man, you were just at the right place at the right time. Pardon me, 1 second. That's the point. I go to work every day and say, deal the cards, and I will do what is within my power to make it the right place at the right time. Not because it's rah-rah, wonderful motivational stuff, because I got no choice. If I'm going to survive in this marketplace, come on, deal the cards, and I will make it the right place at the right time, to the extent that I can. Let me leave you with this. I found it a couple of weeks ago. Anonymous. I don't know who wrote it. It's called, I'd give them credit. I mean, it says anonymous. I didn't write it. That's all I'm saying. Listen to this. Take home. This is a take-home snack for you. I think that I read this, and it seems like it wraps together a lot of what General Powell and Dan and God, the people and everybody was talking about. It's called Anyway. People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. You know this is true. If you're successful, you will win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and frank, some people are going to try to cheat you. Be honest anyway. What you spend years building, some people will destroy overnight. Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, some people will be jealous and scorn you. Be joyful anyway. The good that you do today, they will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. You give the world the best you have, and sometimes it won't be enough. Give the world the best you have anyway. Because you see, in the final analysis, it's between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. Travel safe. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Bye-bye.